In this video, we'll be going through how to determine the circle center, the radius, and also attacking one of the most important parts of circle geometry, which is determining if whether circles touch, intersect at 2 points, or only intersect at 1 point. And that really will be the climax, or the most important part of this video. But let's go first through what we would have already done in the previous chapters and videos. 1.1, that we're given two circles and we're asked to determine the circle centers and the radius of each. So the first circle is x squared plus y squared minus 16x minus 20y, and for convenience let's take 115 to the other side of the equation. Then let's group our variables. X squared minus 16 minus 16x plus y squared minus 20y. And this really allows us to be able to easily complete the square and identify the values that we're going to multiply by half or divide by 2. So we take the negative 16, divide by 2 or multiply by half. That'll give us negative 8 squared, because negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8. So we're going to take our negative 8 and you're going to square it, and we'll get 64. I think let's just continue also and then just do that for the y value, negative 20, so as to not go back and forth and save time, which will give us negative 10 squared, which will be negative 10 squared is 100. So what we do now, what I like to do is just open a bracket. Small tiny habit that I picked up really from the good math teachers that helped me with math. As much as you might know what to do, it's also good to know what to avoid to lose marks. So we're going to add the 64, yeah, and also we're going to do the same thing what you do on the left, you do on the right. We're going to add 64 here. It's always good to know how to not lose marks as well. So y squared minus 20y, and we're going to add 100 plus 100, and we're going to add also the 100 on the right hand side. What you do on the left, we do on the right. So here we have really acute trinomials, which you can solve very simply, which will be x minus 8, x minus 8. How I do this really, I just really find the square root of 64. If this is negative, I know both signs will be negative, and if this is positive, it corroborates that negative and negative will give you positive. Same thing here, it's 100, square root of 100 is 10, but here we have negative 20, so it will be negative 10 and negative 10, because when you multiply them, they give you positive 100. And then on the right hand side, we have negative 115 plus 64 plus 100, and we have 49. This gives us 49. So which we can simply write as x minus 8 squared plus y minus 10 squared is equals to 49. Therefore, our circle center then will be 8 is to 10, and r will be the square root of 49. Square root of 49 is 7. And this is important because we'll see how this leads on to the next question. So for 1.1, or for the first circle, let's write our circle center to be 8 and 10, and r to be 7. So this will be the C for the circle center. And we can move on to 1.2. And not 1.2, the next question. I'm so excited for the next question, I'm already rushing to it. So it's x squared plus y squared plus 8x minus 10y, and we can take the 5 to the other side of the equation, and then we can tighten our equation by putting the x's together. Y squared minus 10y minus 5. We repeat the procedure. Be interested in the positive 8, the negative 10. Take the positive 8, divided by 2, square it, which will give you all squared, and this will give you 16. Then we take the negative 10 divided by 2, which will be negative 5, all squared, which will give you 25. Then small act of opening up the bracket, y squared 10y is equal to 5. So we first work with the 16, we add the 16 here, add it on the right hand side as well, add the 25 as well here, and we add the 25 on the right hand side as well. Then we have trinomial 16, square root of 16 give you 4, and they're both positive, so we can just say x plus 4 is 4. And here square root of 5, here it's negative, so you can say negative 5 equals to, on the right hand side we have negative 5 plus 16 plus 24. That will give us 36. We can write our equation as x plus 4 squared y minus 5 squared is equal to 36. Which means then our circle center will be, since this is 4, positive 4, we take it as negative, will be negative 4 is to 5, and the radius will be the square root of 36, which is 6. That means the circle center for the circle equation, negative 4 is to 5, and the radius is 6. I think now we would have answered all of 1.1. Then we get down with 1.1. Let's really move on to 1.2. So for 1.2, there's an important diagram that I'd like us to memorize. It's very, very, very important. So I'll try and bring it up to the screen so that we can reference it very quickly. And I would like you to memorize this diagram, because when you understand this diagram, you will be halfway to understanding all of circle geometry. So this is the diagram. So the next question is asking us to determine whether or not the circles intersect. So what we need to know, remember we're dealing with two circles. Let's go back and just write out the information for our two circles. Let's call circle A, where we had the radius of 8 and 10. Now the circle center of 8 and 10 and the radius of 7. And circle B, where we had the circle center of -4 and 5, and the radius was 6 units. So now we need to investigate these two circles as to what's happening. If we can just really cast our eyes onto this diagram, we have intersection at 2 points. If the circles intersect at 2 points, D, which is the distance between the two radii, means that you can calculate the distance formula between the two coordinates of the two circles, and you'll calculate your value for D. But if when you add the two radii, or the radius of this one circle and the other circle, and you find that the sum of these two values are greater than the distance between them, it means the circles intersect 2 points. So the key things is always calculate the distance. That will be the distance between centers, and you need to have your radii, the radii of the two circles. The distance between two circles and the radii always helps you evaluate as to whether they intersect at 2 points, at 1 point or not. So if you add the two radii, you sum them up, add them, you find that this value is bigger than the distance between them, it means the circle intersects at 2 points. If the circles intersect at 1 point, it means that when you find the distance, the sum of the radii, the two radii, when you add them together, it's equals to the distance between the circle centers. And if there's no intersection, it means that the distance between the two circles is bigger than the sum of the two radii. So it's always good to remember this table that I constructed. Always remember it and memorize it, because it will be so important in our decision making or concluding or answering the question here. So what we need to do now to be able to answer this question is to find the distance between, let's call it coordinate A, the circle center of the first circle, and the circle center of the second circle. We'll use the distance formula to find the distance between the two centers. And this will be the distance AB square root of x2, which is -4, minus x1, is 8 squared, plus y2, which is 5, minus y1, which is 10. So the distance between the two circles, you can go in your calculator, square root -4 minus 8 all squared, plus 5 minus 10 all squared. We are getting that the distance between the two centers is 13 units. So we have the important thing, the distance, so we can just call it this D. And this we can call R1 and R2. So now we need to evaluate what is the sum of R1 plus R2. It's 7 plus 6. And if you go ahead and say 7 plus 6, you get 13. Can you see that the distance between the two circle centers and the sum of the two radii are equal? And if you go back to our diagram here, you can see that if the distance to be calculated to be 13 is the same as the sum of R1 plus R2, which means we can safely conclude that circles intersect at one point. So you can just go and say, therefore, circles intersect each other at one point. Please go through this again so as to understand and remember this table.